Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the In Demand Hairstylist podcast. I'm so grateful and so excited that you are here today. I am really excited to talk about today's topic. I had a stylist who reached out to me and asked me, is it worth investing in education when there is so much free content on Instagram? And I do definitely have some thoughts around this, and I'm going to share them with you guys today. So, let's talk about free versus paid education. I'm going to talk to you guys about three things. And I think one of the biggest differences, obviously, is the interaction. Um, when you go online, which you guys, you can find literally any education that you want on YouTube, probably Instagram, Facebook, these different platforms. You can learn how to cut hair. You can learn how to balayage. You can learn how to install extensions, even like anything you want to know is on there. But the biggest difference, I think, is the interaction that you'll get. So if you're somebody who likes to feel connected and supported when you are being educated and when you're learning something new, I definitely think that I would go with paid education versus free education. So if you are somebody who likes to feel, like likes to be able to ask questions, if you want to be able to take a deeper dive into something, I would say that more often than not, you're going to have that in the paid education avenue. So the second thing is, typically around paid education, there's some sort of accountability. Obviously, if you're in a classroom, there's going to be accountability for you paying attention, accountability, making sure that you know what's going on. And there's probably going to be some accountability like once you go home too. I know specifically on like online courses and things like that, there is accountability built in within online courses that kind of has you check mark that you are doing everything that you're supposed to do. So there's just a different level of accountability when you invest in paid education versus free education, where there's virtually no accountability except the accountability that you put on for yourself. So my question for you is, are you somebody who really does take the information that you learn online and implement it? If you are somebody who does do that, if you learn a coloring technique or a cutting technique, or you learn a new way to do a consultation, are you the type of stylist that is going to take what you learn and actually implement it into your salon experience? If you need that extra level of accountability, making sure that somebody's checking up on you, making sure that you have some sort of level of somebody kind of keeping an eye out for you, I definitely think the paid avenue is the better route. And the third and final thing that I want to share is that there is just a different type of value when you make an investment in education. So when you take free education, a lot of the times you may be multitasking, you may have your phone next to you, you might be texting while the education is happening. Maybe you watch it, but then you take a break and you go have some lunch and then you come back. And so um when you don't pay for education, a lot of the times, like, we don't find as much value in it because we're not paying for it. We're not making the investment. Where if you pay $1,000 to go to an extension certification class, like, you are going to be hanging on to every single word. So I think that there's something to be said for making an investment, because where you put your money is what you value. So, free education is absolutely amazing. My big overarching answer to this question is, why not do both? Like, why not take free education in the areas where there's free education, but then maybe in areas that you maybe need some extra support, accountability, you want more interaction, or you just know that you need to make the investment in it. I would say then take paid classes. And so that's sort of my advice on that, is that one, the interaction difference between paid and unpaid. If you're somebody who likes to have interaction with an educator or somebody who's teaching you, I would definitely take the paid route versus free. Accountability, of course. I think there's going to be more accountability whenever you have paid education versus free. And just the idea of making the investment and that you value what you put your money into. And so you're going to take it a little bit more seriously if you're actually like paying for education versus just watching it on Monday on your day off. So I definitely think that there is so much education out there and so much valuable content that it would be silly not to do free education. I mean, it's something that I did not really have when I started out in the industry. So now I just think that why not? Like, it's definitely something you should put on your calendar every single week. Find some educators that you really enjoy following, see what new content they're coming out with, and, you know, and learn and really put the time and effort in. And like I said, sometimes you have to be your own accountability and discipline yourself to kind of put everything aside and really set down that hour or however long to work on the things that you're learning on the screen. So I would just say put designated time aside where that is all you're focusing on and you're fully focused on it. And to boot, like, go ahead and actually implement what you're learning in the salon. So the second half of this is I want to talk about is paid education and how do you choose what paid education to invest in? Because it can get expensive, and I totally get that. There are certain classes out there that might be $50. You might pay $300. It can go as high as $5,000, $10,000 if you want to work with a one-on-one coach. So I know that making that investment is a big deal. So it's like, how do I know what type of education to take? So first and foremost, just know that education, you have to know already and commit that no matter what class you go to, no matter what investment you make, that you are going to take something away from it. Like, you are going to learn something, whether it's one thing that you walk away with. You want to make sure that you go in with the attitude that you are going to walk away with something from this education. So never walk away from any sort of class that you go to and be like, that was stupid, that was a waste of money. If that is the attitude that you're having, then it's time for you to have an attitude check, an attitude readjustment, and really think about, okay, what did I learn from this class? Because I promise you, there is always something that you can learn from a class, even if it's just one thing that you learn. And that one thing can be incredibly valuable. So I'll give you an example. Like, in one class, I learned, I knew all the haircuts and stuff that they were doing, but I sat in on a cutting class and they said, what makes a haircut is what you don't cut, not what you do cut. So in some haircuts, it's what you don't cut that makes the haircut. And I was like, wow, that actually is so true. Like, you don't have to cut every single piece of hair. Sometimes you have to let certain parts grow a little longer and cut some parts shorter. And that totally stuck with me my entire career. Like, what makes a haircut sometimes is what you don't cut. And so it was like one small thing that I learned that actually like impacted my entire career behind the chair. So that's just an example of something that can really, really stick with you. That might be one small thing that you learn. So I would say just have that attitude when you're investing in education. But how do you choose the education that's right for you? So first and foremost, when you're paying for education, you're paying for something that you want to get better at. So it doesn't make sense that if you are a pretty decent hair cutter and that's really where you excel, but maybe your coloring, formulating skills are just not up to par, like, it doesn't really make sense to invest in another cutting class, even though that's maybe what you love to do. If you want to improve your coloring or formulating skills, if you have clients who are getting upset with, the colors that you're doing, or you're having certain challenges, it makes sense to shift and pay for education in the area that you need support in. So I would say really figure out, what are my biggest challenges right now? What are my biggest obstacles? And where do I need help and support the most? that's where you want to pay for education, because if that's an area that you're struggling with more often than not, like, I don't know if free education, you could totally try that avenue first. Like, find somebody who does the thing that you're struggling with, see if watching and doing the things that they teach you are helping you. But if you really need that extra layer of support, sometimes paid education, I think is the route to go. So figure out, what is the biggest obstacles? What is it that I want to learn? Is there a new skill that I want to learn? Or is there a skill that I want to master? Like, I want to literally become the master, the best in my town, in my city. I want to be known for this. Like, then take paid education, because you're just probably not going to get there through watching free videos on Instagram. So, Instagram can only go so deep, right? You can only do so much or teach so much through Instagram. So, I think that investing in your education in the area that you really need help and support in is going to be the best option. Then also just like be specific, about what you want to learn. Know, what is it that I need to know? So sometimes in your business, it's not even like a technical skill that you need to know, but maybe you really need to work on your confidence and, talking with your clients and building connection and relationships. Like, that's something very specific that not every single educator is going to be like teaching you or talking about. So it's really seeking out like the right person who is teaching specifically what you want to learn or what you want to get better at. And so that's something to just kind of think about, like your self-evaluation, like where do I need help? Maybe it's that you really want to grow your income and you're doing okay, but like you see that there's stylists out there that are making six figures and and more, and you really want to learn that. Well, then go and find that person who's talking about money and who is, teaching classes on how to create six figures behind the chair. They're out there. There's very specialized educators who are out there teaching very specific things. So your job is to figure out like, what is specifically that I want to learn. So the third thing that you want to look for when you are investing in education, this is huge, you guys, is find somebody who has done what it is that you want to do. So anybody can be an educator. Anybody can get on a social media platform and say, hey guys, like this is how you make six figures. But do you know if that stylist is literally making six figures? Do you know where they live? Do you know what kind of car they drive? Do you know if they're in debt? Do you know like their life? If not, then it's not like, you need to find the person who has literally done what you want to do. And I think it's hard to sort of navigate sometimes social media because everybody's amazing. Like it looks like everybody's amazing. But you really need to find the person that resonates with you. Do a little bit of research on the educator, and has that educator actually done what you want to do? If not, it's not worth investing, a couple $100 to take their course, their class, or whatever. So I would say that that's the other thing. Also consider your ROI. So your rate of return on investment. I was going to say rate of return on investment. What is the ROI? So if, let's just say, for example, there's a class that's $1,000, okay? You have to think like, what is the return on investment? And am I going to be able to make this $1,000 back? And how quickly can I make it back? So let's just say, for example, you go on a retreat, and this retreat is $1,000, and you go and you travel, you take time out of your day, you take time away from the salon. Like, that's fun, but like, what is your return on investment? What specifically are you going to be learning and walking away with from this training that you're going to be able to implement into the salon that's going to actually have you be able to pay for that? So I think that's something really important. And here's the other thing. Sometimes the ROI is personal and sometimes it's professional. So you have to really decide, only you can decide that. I'll give you an example. So in 2018, I hopped on an airplane, flew across the country to San Diego, to go on a personal development retreat with a coach that I had literally only met online, but I literally resonated with her so much that it was like an internal, just like, yes, like, yes, my whole like being was jumping at this opportunity. At the time, I was going through some really difficult challenges in my personal life, and this retreat cost money to go to. But after going to it and coming home, I wasn't going to be able to make any money to repay myself for this investment that I had made. But my joy and my happiness, my clarity, those were the things that were my ROI. My return on investment is that I went and I paid for the experience, the connection, and walking away with joy, happiness, fulfillment, and clarity about what I was going to be doing in my life next. So it wasn't a monetary thing. So again, you have to understand what your ROI is. Now, if you're one of those type of people who loves to go to retreats like that, could I continually go on retreat after retreat after retreat after retreat just to get like personally filled without having a monetary reinvestment back into it? Like that would burn out eventually. So at some point, it makes sense to invest in things that are actually going to pay dividends later. And so when it comes to personal development stuff, or just like some of these retreats that I see that a lot of hairstylists and stuff are doing now, wonderful, amazing. Personal development is like totally my jam. I love it. But I do think that there's also like a tactical side where it's like, how am I going to grow my business financially too? So, that's obviously your skills, like your cutting, your coloring, communicating, marketing, promoting, like things like that, that you might need to work on within your business that will actually produce income in your business. And so you have to look at those things. If a class is ROI is $1,000, you know that you want to at least come back and make $1,000 doing whatever you're doing. So I know, for example, there are people out there who get like certified in extensions, and it might be a $1,500 like class and certification. Well, can you turn around? How many heads of hair will you have to do in order to make that $1,500 back? Is it one head? Is it two heads? Is it three heads, four heads? Like how many people will you have to do in order to make that back, and then some? So that's, I think, one of the biggest questions you have to ask yourself too, is like, what is my ROI? How many heads of hair will I have to do to pay for this? I would do that when I would buy an expensive pair of shears. I'd be like, all right, these shears are $700 or $1,000 or whatever it was. How many heads of hair would I have to cut? And it just made it so like so that I was so aware of that. When I invested in this pair of scissors or this tool that I was using, it wasn't just like a splurge. I would actually figure out how many heads of hair do I have to do in order to pay for this thing. And I think when you start thinking about that, you value it more. You value your clients more, and you value whatever it is that you're using, whether you're investing your money in tools or whether you're investing it in education. So I do just think that there's an energetic exchange when you pay for something. You guys know that, like when you go shopping and you buy a new shirt or a new outfit or a new lipstick, you go to Sephora, when you exchange your money, there's this energetic feel that makes you value what you have in your hand, and you're excited to wear it. You can't wait. And when you do wear it, you feel so good because you paid for it. So it's the same thing with education. It hits differently when you pay for it. It just does. So that is kind of my long-winded version of saying definitely do both. I think that there's a time and a place for both. Just know how you learn best. Definitely utilize free education on Instagram, but definitely do not be afraid to invest in education, because your education will always be your best investment. My friend Cash Lawless says your best investment, and he's done tons and tons of investments, multimillionaire. He says your best investment is your education. So That is what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for asking this question because I do think it's so incredibly relevant. I hope this was helpful for you guys today. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoy this podcast, I just ask that you share it with a friend and also take time to write a review if you have found value today. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I will talk to you next time.